see me okay? Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. Earlier in the week, I gave you a little look at my kit for Micro Four Thirds, and in that video, I told you this week I was going to shoot all black and white with only this lens right here, the Sigma. Come on, baby, focus. There it is, the Sigma 56mm f1.4 for Micro Four Thirds. And I wanted to give just a couple quick thoughts for anybody considering this lens and what you might be up against when you're comparing it. So first of all, let's start with the build quality. And I hate talking about this stuff, but it is somewhat important. I'm shooting on a Leica lens right now, and I love the metal feel of it. I think this is made out of metal. Hold on. Nope, I think it's plastic. But nonetheless, it doesn't feel cheap. It's not Leica premium quality, but it's not bad whatsoever. And you know, it's got a metal lens mount, so you're all good there. It comes with a lens hood, which is great. I think it's plastic, but it feels good in terms of overall build quality. So build quality, it's good enough. To size. Now here is where the things get a little interesting. I've never shot the Nocticron. That's kind of where my bogey's going to be, is the Nocticron. But I've heard really, really good things about it in terms of sharpness, but I've also heard it's big and heavy. This is a big Micro Four Thirds lens, but it's not really that heavy. That's probably because of the plastic build quality. But on the contrast to this, there are the Panasonic 42.5mm f1.7, and then there's also the Olympus 45mm f1.8 lens that are much, much, much smaller than this. And my thought about that is this. I bought this specifically for portraits, maybe some telephoto stuff, and I'll talk about the reach in a second, for doing my daughter's gymnastics. But if you're after a portrait lens that can be like in your pocket on a walking travel trip, it's just a hindrance by any means, but it's not the same size as those tiny Olympus and Panasonic lenses. So I would say overall, it's not as heavy as the Nocticron, again, just based on specs, but it's definitely not as small as those other ones. So let's talk about the focal length on this, because that's kind of where it differentiates. Again, the Panasonic, the small one, is 42.5 millimeters. The Olympus is 45 millimeters, I believe. And then the Nocticron is 42.5 as well with an f1.2 aperture. And then this is 56. Now, the other lens I'm leaving out of this discussion that's a prime, not the zooms, is the 75 millimeter. And I really thought about that one. The reason why I went for the longer focal length than this, one of the reasons, is the fact that it is longer. So 56 millimeters on a Micro Four Thirds sensor is about 112 millimeter effective focal length when compared to full frame. And for me, I wanted just a tiny bit more compression, a tiny bit more reach, so that when I am shooting sports in the gym, that I could get a little bit further with it and still shoot at 1.4. And the aperture is another reason to get this lens, by the way. I had the 42.5 in the past. It's a great lens, but I think hands down, this lens is better than that lens in terms of overall image quality. Not to mention, I said the aperture, it's a 1.4 versus that being a 1.7. I try to get as much as I can out of Micro Four Thirds because you are two times crop on the depth of field compared to full frame. So 1.4 is like a 2.8, whereas you go to 1.7, that's like a 3.5, if that's the correct conversion. But nonetheless, when you're shooting portraits, I think 2.8 is a pretty good depth of field to work with at 112 millimeter effective focal length. I think that's pretty solid. So overall, I think the focal length is good for what it's meant for. I think the f1.4 aperture is good. Now I'm going to show some photos as soon as I'm done talking. I'll put some music over it so you guys can look at it. They're all in black and white, which doesn't help with the whole portrait thing for the most part. But you guys can look at it. This lens, it focuses fast and it is super sharp, like ridiculously sharp. I think it looks absolutely amazing. Also, the color tones that come out of it, there'll be a few color pictures right at the end. It's really, really good. Again, that's Olympus colors processed, or not processed at all. They're JPEG straight out of camera. So again, you have a Panasonic camera, it might look a little bit different, but the lens is just, I think, a total win. At least this copy I have is fantastic. Now, I don't have the 42.5 millimeter Nocticron 1.2 Leica lens to compare it to, and I was going to go for that, but I just couldn't see myself spending $1,000. Sometimes you can get them used for like, or open box for like $700, 800 for portraits. When I don't do portraits that often, I tend to typically shoot somewhere in the 35 to 50 millimeter focal length on a day in, day out basis. And so for me, this is kind of a specialty lens, and it might be for you guys as well, but if you're shooting portraits on Micro Four Thirds, I would seriously go rent this Sigma 56. I would rent the 75 f1.8 Olympus lens, and I would rent the Nocticron. and you do your analysis on how much the difference is in terms of cost and value. And the reason why I bring that up, I'm gonna look on my phone right here for you guys. If I go on B&H Photo and I look up the Leica, well, how much does it cost right now in B&H? Right now it's retailing for $1,200 with a $400 instant savings. Now I found this cheaper on Amazon Open Box, whereas this lens, Sigma 56 millimeter mirrorless lens, is retailing for like $430. So you're talking like $900 less if you buy at full retail price. It's a big difference, and I think the quality of this is super close to the Leica. I haven't shot the Leica, like I said. I've looked at pictures, I've looked at comparison pictures, but it's pretty good. Nonetheless, I'll summarize it in saying this. For what it is, for what the focal length is and what it's meant for, I think on Micro Four Thirds this is a must-have lens. Unless you have the money to go with the Nocticron, or you want the further reach of the 75 millimeter, I think this is a must-have. And I'll say this, amongst those three lenses, there's not a loser in there, especially when it comes to budget. The 42.5 Nocticron, the 56.1.4 Sigma, or the Olympus 75 are all fantastic lenses on Micro Four Thirds. And that's kind of one of the beauties of Micro Four Thirds. There's a lot of amazing lenses. Anyways, if you're considering this, I have not been disappointed. I'm keeping it. I like it a lot. And if you shoot Micro Four Thirds, I think it's a winner if you're not compelled to go with the 42.5 millimeter focal length or the 75 millimeter focal length. I'll shut up now. I just want to share my thoughts with you guys. Here are some photos I shot throughout the week. A majority of them are in black and white because that's what I'm shooting this week. One lens, all in black and white. But just before I made this video, I went and shot some random stuff on my back porch that shows some color, all at like 1.4 or 2.0 or 2.8. And you guys can get a feel of kind of the color and the sharpness of this lens. So take a look, enjoy the pictures, let me know what you think. And if you want to critique my photos, that's okay. I'm cool with that. I like hearing from you guys in the comment section below. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.